Whoa, it's plummeting big time. Seriously big time. Do you know how cheap housing prices around Beijing are now? In Yangjiao, it was 41,000 yuan per square meter in 2017, and now it's being sold for just over 13,000 yuan. Without doing anything, I've lost over 2 million. In Gu'an, it used to be 28,000, now it's 8,500, and they're throwing in a fully furnished place with a parking spot. I've lost over 2 million there too. But the craziest part is the one place that was 22,000 in 2017. Now with the Beijing subway all set up in just 7 minutes to Beijing Daxing International Airport and 30 minutes to Beijing itself, the Lizhu Business District at 151,000 per square meter is now going for just 7,000, and nobody wants it. So if you're thinking about moving out here, well, you had better wait. Yangjiao will probably drop to 8,000, Gu'an to 3,000.
Over 50% of homes in Gu'an just can't be sold. It's not that they're refusing to lower the prices, it's that nobody wants them at all. I might offend some people by saying this, but it's the truth, and it might get even harsher. You look online and there are tons of listings, and they just keep adding more. I was out with some colleagues recently and they were all saying how they finally managed to sell a house, and then suddenly they've got 2 more listings. There are more and more people trying to sell, but the time it takes to sell is getting longer and the prices they're getting are lower. Even if they're taking a big loss, it's still tough to sell. Plus, there are fewer people looking to buy and even fewer actually buying. It's not that there are fewer buyers, it's just that there are more people waiting and watching. Some properties have lost their financial value and liquidity, let alone any investment value. That's why there are so many people in Gu'an with multiple properties trying to sell them off through any means possible. And right now, most new homes in Gu'an are cheaper than the second-hand ones. How do you sell a second-hand home? If you want to stand out from the crowd, you'll need to knock at least 100,000 or 200,000 off the price. And with the current market, it's either wait or sell. Some properties in poor locations have become negative assets, selling for less than the mortgage, and some owners are even paying the bank to keep their homes. They're even paying for renovations, but even after that, they can't rent them out. Tough, right? The once popular housing market in the area around Beijing, known as Suburban Beijing housing, continues to decline, posing a headache for homeowners. Previously, suburban Beijing housing was in high demand, serving as a landing spot for countless individuals moving to Beijing. Slogans like "The charming suburbs of Beijing yearning for the beautiful Langfang" and "One Beijing, 4 Peacock Cities" deeply resonated with many aspiring Beijing residents. The 4 Peacock Cities refer to the development of 4 new urban areas around Beijing with their planned modern infrastructure and amenities. These areas are intended to alleviate population pressure in the capital city by providing housing and employment opportunities in surrounding regions. Therefore, the real estate market in suburban Beijing gained favor among investors. In 2016, suburban Beijing housing prices soared, with Yanjiao reaching a peak of 40,000 yuan per square meter and properties in Dachang County reaching up to 30,000 yuan. According to data on Chinese housing market trends, the average housing prices in cities within the Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei region rose by 40%. However, by 2017, with the implementation of purchase restrictions, the prices of suburban Beijing housing began to decline steadily. In recent years, with further economic downturn in China, the real estate market has remained sluggish. Prices of suburban Beijing housing have now fallen by over half, with some areas experiencing drops of over 70%. In a recent video, independent social media personality Xiao Gao shared that she can't even give away the suburban Beijing housing she bought. After being listed for several months, there has been no interest whatsoever. She asks, how are investors in suburban Beijing housing getting rid of their properties? She explains that in 2015, she bought a house in Gu'an, Langfang for 11,000 yuan per square meter. Now, it has dropped to around 5,000 yuan per square meter. She still has over 700,000 yuan in loans to repay. Selling at 5,000 yuan per square meter won't even cover the remaining mortgage. What's worse, she still hasn't received the property deed. Since receiving the house, she has only visited it twice and can't even find it now. Xiaoga says that in 2018, houses in Guan Langfang became popular again. At that time, many people were buying suburban Beijing housing every day. However, what was once in high demand is now completely cold. She said, "Recently, the housing prices have dropped drastically. My husband said we should sell as soon as possible, otherwise we'll suffer even greater losses. Not only have we lost our down payment, but we still owe a loan. I told my husband's brother how much is left on our mortgage and the current housing prices, suggesting that he take the house, but he's not willing to take it. With over 700,000 in loans, he could buy 2 houses in his hometown. We really can't even give it away." On March 9, 2023, Hong Kong's Ming Power reported that Yanjiao, belonging to Sanhe, Hebei, is as quiet as a dead city. Both the Old Town area and the newly developed South City are noticeably quieter than before the pandemic, with many street-facing shops in previously bustling areas now closed. There are no real estate agencies on the main streets. Some owners of high-rise residential buildings can only rent out their properties through the internet or social media, with rents for some 100 square meter units being just over 1,000 yuan. Even so-called luxury homes rarely rent for more than 2,000 yuan. Some owners are offering waived first-year rent to attract long-term tenants. Several residents indicated that the local real estate market is currently very sluggish, with a large amount of inventory remaining unsold. Many buyers from Beijing have chosen to default on their payments, and the number of houses auctioned by the court has multiplied in recent years. As early as the end of January 2023, mainland media reported that Beijing and its surrounding areas have always been an indicator of housing price trends. However, from the second half of 2022 to the first half of 2023, the suburban Beijing area experienced the most severe drops, with prices falling by around 50% on average. Among them, Yanjiao's housing prices dropped from 38,000 to just over 18,000, a decrease of 52%. Dachang dropped from 35,000 to 13,000, a decrease of 62%. Xianghe dropped from 24,000 to 8,500, a decrease of 64%. And Yongqing saw the largest drop, from 23,000 to 5,600, a decrease of 71%. In 2022, mainland media reported that housing prices in the suburban Beijing area had already dropped significantly in the first half of 2020. Since May 2022, housing prices in areas such as Langfang, Guan, Xianghe, Yongqing, and Bazhou have fallen back to levels seen 7 years ago. In addition, housing prices in Yanjiao, Hebei have dropped from 40,000 per square meter to just over 10,000. Many speculators are firmly trapped in their properties. For homeowners stuck in suburban Beijing housing, selling at all is considered lucky, with losses of 1 million yuan being quite common. Wang Qin, a senior real estate agent in Langfang, Guan, said that this is just the tip of the iceberg for the suburban Beijing real estate market. According to media reports, since Beijing implemented purchase restrictions in 2017, Yanjiao housing prices have been falling continuously. In 2021, some investors found that the remaining mortgage to be paid exceeded the market value of the property. Continuing to hold on would only lead to more losses. As a result, some homeowners posted announcements online stating that they would give away their properties for free to anyone willing to take over the mortgage. Many owners have been forced to default to limit their losses. Dr. Xie Tian, a business school professor at the University of South Carolina, Aiken, has stated on the Voice of Hope radio station that the issue of free property giveaways in Yanjiao is, from a broader perspective, actually a microcosm of the rapid collapse of the Chinese economy. He pointed out that there are more and more incidents of financial enterprises, banks, financing platforms, funds, or financial projects in China going bankrupt, and this situation will only become more severe. In recent years, not only have suburban Beijing housing prices fallen sharply and become difficult to sell, but housing prices across China have also plummeted, with properties attracting no interest.
过了1个年，我的房子又损失了将近100万。
After a year, my house lost nearly 1 million. After Beijing lifted its purchase restrictions, do you know how crazy housing prices dropped? In April or May last year, my house could still sell for around 7.3 million. That's what it was going for. At that time, I saw 5 or 6 going for 7.2 or 7.3 million. And now after a year, the latest selling price is 5.5 million. I've lost almost 2 million in a year. I was freaking out, losing sleep, anxious all the time for months. But now I've become numb. It's like a 25% drop in a year. I'm in a real bind now. If I sell, I'll take a huge loss. And all those years of hard work will be for nothing.
房子价格跌得最惨的地方，他敢说第一，就没有人敢说第二。
The worst hit place in the whole country is probably Huizhou. No one dares to say otherwise. It's dropped by as much as 90%. A house that was originally worth 1 million is now going for just 150,000. Can you believe it? The most anxious and worried people are those who bought homes in Huizhou between 2018 and 2021 and are still paying off their mortgages. Do you guys know what urban circle real estate is? It's the areas around the megacities like Shenzhen. Over the past few years, a lot of people in Shenzhen who couldn't afford homes there opted for nearby areas like Huizhou, hoping to move into the city later when prices went up. But in the past few years, Huizhou has seen some of the most severe drops in housing prices in all of China. Like the Greater Bay Area near Shenzhen, where prices peaked at around 20,000 yen per square meter, and now they're down to 8 or 9,000. Take Taifeng Muma Lake in the Wanda area, for example. It used to go for around 20,000 and now it's selling for around 11,000, fully furnished, almost half price. And then there's Vanke Cultural Garden in Huiyang, which used to sell over 17,000. Now it's going for just 9,000, nearly a 40% discount. And the most dramatic is the Seaside Homes in Huizhou, originally 1 million and now down to 150,000 a unit. If a house has dropped by 30%, that's like losing 30% of your down payment, basically losing all your principal. Now there are so many second-hand homes in Huizhou that aren't selling for enough to cover their mortgage, and lots of owners are just giving them away as long as you keep making the monthly payments.
Financial blogger Uncle Bao expressed on social platform X, everyone thought that the Chinese real estate market was about to bottom out, but unexpectedly, a new round of real estate crash has begun. Prices are falling in first-tier cities, crashing in second-tier cities, and there are no bidders in third-tier cities and below. Prices are plummeting almost every day like a waterfall. Market rescue policies are still being squeezed. After this round, it is feared that it will not only be the real estate developers who will face bankruptcy, but also the banks. Data shows that in March 2024, real estate sales in China plummeted drastically, nearly halved. The sales of the top 100 real estate companies in China amounted to only 358 billion. During the same period last year, the sales of these real estate companies were 661 billion. In comparison, this year's sales have dropped by 45.8%. This breaks the record for Chinese real estate sales in over 20 years. Moreover, house prices have plummeted by up to 50%. Despite some media reports of a mini spring in the property market, the reality is a harsh winter. The long-term poor performance of sales has led to a significant reduction in the overall scale of real estate companies this year. In the first 3 months of this year, the sales of the top 100 real estate companies in China amounted to only 779 billion. Compared with the same period last year, there was a sharp decline of 47.5%, also halved. Furthermore, the prices of second-hand houses are also falling, with 81.4% of transactions priced below the reference price, a proportion that has been rising over the past year. The proportion of transactions below the reference price of 0% to 10% increased from 25.5% in February to 27%. The proportion of transactions below 10% to 20% increased to 34%. Currently, the deviation between the mainstream transaction price and the reference price is within these two ranges. According to institutional monitoring data, at the end of March, the listing price of second-hand houses was 70,600 yuan per square meter, a decrease of 1.1% month-on-month, with a cumulative decrease of 8% in the past 12 months. With listing prices showing a downward trend, transaction volume is increasing. According to statistics from the Shenzhen Real Estate Intermediary Association on April 1st, in March this year, Shenzhen recorded 5,196 second-hand house transactions, an increase of 116.6% month-on-month and 5% year-on-year, exceeding the industry standard of 5,000 transactions. According to monitoring data from Jia Research Center, this is the first time in 3 years that the monthly number of second-hand house transactions in Shenzhen has exceeded 5,000. As of April 2024, according to statistics from the Shenzhen Real Estate Information Platform, the total number of second-hand houses available for sale in Shenzhen was 58,122, an increase of 4,369 compared to the 53,753 units listed for sale on March 1st, an increase of 8.1% month-on-month. The Shenzhen Real Estate Intermediary Association pointed out that the proportion of transactions in March where the transaction price was lower than the reference price increased significantly compared to March last year. Currently, most homeowners are actively lowering prices to boost transactions. For the current second-hand housing market in Shenzhen, the industry is still concerned about the lack of momentum for market recovery. According to an opinion piece of Stephen Mosher published on the New York Post on March 30th, you know it's over when 65 million homes, 1/5 of the nation's total, lie vacant, and real estate prices have collapsed to 2018 levels. You know it's over when China's official youth unemployment rate reaches double digits, while its Ministry of Finance reports a 16% drop in personal income tax collected year over year. The article said, given how the Chinese Communist Party CCP toys with statistics, the real number must be much, much worse. Cheng Pingcheng is a professor of finance at Taiwan's Yunlin University of Science and Technology. He said this shows that the income of ordinary residents is declining. It may be related to real estate. The job market is bad, the entire industry is bad, more people are unemployed, and corporate income tax naturally declines. Meanwhile, the outflow of funds and personnel is exasperating the plight of Chinese economy. Stephen Mosher wrote, $5 billion may have fled the country in 2023 alone, and the hemorrhaging continues. In addition, the loss of talent and the sharp increase in defectors further exasperate the wounds of the Chinese economy. Mosher pointed out that the fundamental reason for all this is that the Communist Party of China is returning to communist ideology. In the minds of rapacious communist officials, the best way to eliminate capitalism has always been to simply eliminate the capitalists themselves. He said, we know how this tale ends. Whenever a Chairman Mao or a President Xi decides that producing tyranny is more important than producing the goods, as they all do sooner or later, economic collapse follows. When that day arrives, the Chinese people should not expect sympathy from Xi. After all, they got none from his mentor either, when Mao's own foray into collectivist folly ended in famine. The Mosher article is, Communist China had a good run, but the party is over.